All right, let's dive right in. We're going to take a look inside the most complex object in the known universe. And guess what? It's sitting right between your ears. We all feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own minds, right? But what if I told you the user's guide is packed with some seriously weird fine print? Let's start with a little test, shall we?
Okay, quick question for you. I want you to picture the Monopoly man. You know, rich Uncle Pennybags. Got him in your head? Top hat, cane, fancy suit. But what about his eyewear? Does he have a monocle? Go on, lock in your answer.
So, did you picture one? Because he doesn't have one. Never has. And if you're sitting there thinking, wait, what? I could have sworn he had one. Well, you're not alone. Not by a long shot. You've just bumped into something psychologists call a false memory. It's this wild little glitch in our mental software.
And look, this is way more than just a fun party trick. It actually points to this huge, fundamental truth about our brains. Your memory, it is not a video camera, perfectly recording every single thing that happens. Nope. It's much more like a creative storyteller, constantly editing the script, adding a little dramatic flair, and yeah, sometimes just plain making stuff up.
So, what even is a false memory exactly? Well, at its core, it's a memory of something that simply never happened. And the most important thing to get here is that this is not the same as forgetting something, and it's definitely not lying. To the person experiencing it, that memory feels absolutely 100% real. It's as if your brain went back and rewrote a chapter of your life without even asking.
And what's really wild is just how easy it is to create these things. Seriously, scientists do it in labs all the time. In a classic experiment, they'll read out a list of related words like dream, bed, awake, rest, but they'll intentionally leave out the single most obvious word that connects them all, sleep. And what happens? When they ask people to recall the list, a huge number of them will confidently swear they heard the word sleep. It was never there. Their brain just filled in the blank, automatically.
Okay, so tricking one person's brain, that's one thing. But what happens when millions of people, millions, all share the exact same false memory? Well, that's when things get really weird. And that brings us to this bizarre phenomenon you've probably heard of called the Mandela effect.
Yeah, it gets its name from this super common but totally wrong memory that thousands of people have of Nelson Mandela dying in prison back in the 80s. But there are so many of these. I mean, the Berenstain Bears, come on, I would have bet my life savings it was spelled with an E-I-N. And that famous line from Star Wars, Luke, I am your father. He never says it. The real line is, no, I am your father. It's just mind-blowing how these tiny, specific mistakes get copied and pasted across millions of brains.
So what is going on here? I mean, sure, you'll hear people say it's proof of parallel universes, which is a fun idea, but neuroscientists have a much simpler explanation. As Professor Bainbridge puts it, our brains are basically lazy, but in a smart way. They're built for efficiency. So instead of recording every single tiny detail, which would be exhausting, our brain just captures the gist of something. It creates these mental shortcuts, and then it fills in the blanks with what it expects to be there.
So, these memory tricks show us how much our brains love shortcuts. But this whole inner world we've got, it goes so much deeper than just our memories. It gets to the very core of how we think. Which brings me to a question. Let's talk about that little voice inside your head. Or maybe for some of you, the complete silence.
Seriously, I want you to do this right now. Just for a second. Stop and think about something. Anything. Now, pay attention to how you're thinking. Is there a voice in there? A little narrator talking you through it? Do you kind of hear the words as you form the thought? For a lot of us, the answer is a loud yes. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. For a huge number of people, the answer is a firm no.
And the difference isn't subtle. It is absolutely staggering. You've got people on one side saying their inner voice literally never stops, and on the other side, people describing their minds as just quiet. They think in concepts, in feelings, but not in words. That last quote really hits it home. I was floored to hear people have a true voice in their heads. Just think about that. We walk around assuming everyone's inner world is just like ours, when it can be radically different.
And this is not some super rare thing either. We're talking estimates of somewhere between 30 and 50% of the population. 30 to 50. That means there's a really good chance that up to half the people you know have a completely different internal experience than you do. For them, there's no running commentary, no voiceover, just thought. It's wild.
All right, we are going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole here.
First, we questioned our memories. Then we questioned the very nature of our thoughts. Now we're going to pull back the curtain on what might be the biggest illusion of all, this feeling that there's a single you in charge. Just think about sleepwalking for a minute. It's kind of creepy, right? But it's also a perfect example of the brain on autopilot. A person can get up, walk around, make a snack, even drive a car, and their conscious self, the part we call me, is totally checked out. Their brain's decision maker is fast asleep, but other parts are wide awake and running the show. It's chilling proof that you don't always need a conscious pilot to fly the plane.
And believe it or not, it gets even weirder. There's this groundbreaking research on what are called split brain patients. These are people who, for medical reasons, have had the connection between the two halves of their brain cut. And what scientists like Michael Gazzaniga found is just reality bending. He discovered that you can literally have two separate minds, two distinct consciousnesses, living inside the same head. One side of the brain can want one thing, the other side can want something else, and neither one has a clue what the other is up to.
So what does this all mean? Well, the big takeaway is this: that solid, unified feeling you have of being me, of being one single self, it's a story, a really convincing, useful story that your brain tells itself. It's an illusion. The reality is that you are more like a chaotic committee meeting. You've got all these different specialized parts, one for moving, one for talking, one for remembering, all chiming in and working together, most of the time without anyone really being in charge.
Okay, I get it. After hearing all this, you might be feeling like your brain is just a buggy, unreliable piece of hardware. But hold on. For this last part, I want to completely flip the script. What if all these so-called glitches we've been talking about, what if they aren't bugs at all? What if they're actually design features?
Let's go back to our unreliable memory. You know what? Forgetting isn't a failure. It's absolutely essential. It's like cleaning out your mental hard drive. Do you really need to remember what you had for lunch 3 Tuesdays ago? No. And that same efficient, gist-based system that leads to the Mandela effect is exactly what prevents our minds from being overwhelmed by useless data. Trust me, having a perfect memory would be a total nightmare. And what about that huge, mysterious, unconscious we've been exploring? It's not some ghost hiding in the machine. It's the engine room of the entire ship. It's the part that's quietly handling billions of tasks behind the scenes, making sure you're breathing, helping you walk, also that your limited conscious mind can be free to focus on what really matters, like learning something new, solving a problem, or just having a good conversation.
So at the end of the day, here's what it all comes down to. Your brain was never meant to be a perfect computer with flawless recall. That was never the goal. It's an incredible piece of evolutionary engineering, fine-tuned over millions of years for one primary purpose: to help you navigate a complex world and survive. So all those glitches and gaps, they're not mistakes. They are the secret sauce. They're the very features that make our brains so powerful, so adaptive, and so beautifully human. And that, I think, is a pretty amazing thought.